Now, Brittany, why come that far to get your barbecue supplies?
Because you can't find any other seasons that's better than a Owl's Nest.
Brandon Moore, a local pitmaster. Brandon, what makes you buy all your barbecue supplies at the Owl's Nest Barbecue Supply and Pro Shop?
Well, going to different stores, trying to find some good seasoning, man. And I had no luck. Just riding by one day, seeing the barbecue sign, and I stopped over and see you had some of the best products, man. And it's working for me. My customers love it. So,
welcome to the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show live on Talk Radio 102.3 WGOW and the Owl's Nest Barbecue Facebook page. Let's get this show started. Hey everybody, welcome to the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show, aka the Barbecue Show live. No radio tonight. We thought that the Tennessee-Oregon State game was going to go into our hour a little bit, so we opted not to go radio, just on Facebook alone. Of course, Oregon State took Tennessee to the woodshed, so our weird up and down season is finally over. What a strange basketball season. But Jeff Maxwell here with me. Aaron is working the direction, and we are our special guest is, you ready for him, Aaron? You ready to bring in our special guest? Is none other than my favorite cooker, America's Cookout Coach Steve Dotson, all the way from West Virginia. What's up, Steve-O?
Just living the dream. How you doing, bud?
We're doing great. We're doing great here in Tennessee. Everything good in West by God?
So far, I'll tell you after, tip-off's at 9:50 tonight, so I guess around the midnight I might be able to tell you otherwise.
Yeah, it'll probably be before midnight. These games are going pretty quick. If you've got questions, by all means, jump in the chat. Jeff is here. He'll monitor the chat room, and we'll just have a big time here on Facebook. We're just going to talk a little bit barbecue with Steve tonight, and also I'm going to review the newest barbecue book out. Well, I shouldn't say. Yeah, it is. Rodney Scott's. Let's see. Is that good right there, Aaron? Yeah. Rodney Scott's World of Barbecue that was just released on Tuesday. Mine came, I think, Monday afternoon. And I brought it home, and I have read it. And, well, I've read most of it. I read the book part that Rodney was, when he was talking about stuff. I didn't read the recipe part because, like you got a recipe for fried chicken. I did. The first, Steve Dotson, where I first turned to in the book?
Where's that?
Sauce. I want to know how to make his sauce. That was the first page I turned. I went to the index and went sauce. There it is, and read it. Pretty simple stuff.
The Carolinas are just baffle me with their sauces because, actually, I can't remember if it was Rodney Scott I heard talking. One of the North Carolina cookers said, if you let me taste your sauce, I can tell you within like 5 blocks of where you grew up. Just the subtle differences that go from mustard to vinegar, and then the subtleties in between the different varieties. Just I think that's cool as all get out.
Oh, I do too, and there's quite a conversation about whose is better in the Carolinas. More up in North Carolina than South Carolina. But we'll talk about Rodney's book in just a little bit. We're not right now. We're going to be joined by Steve Dotson, and we'll entertain all your questions coming in on the chat. Please, if you've got a question, just chime in with us. It's kind of like I thought about doing this one, Steve, kind of like Tavern Talk.
There you go. It's one of my favorite YouTubers right there.
Yeah, I know. He's great. And I thought we'd do it like Tavern Talk. So if I don't have the guts to sit up here by myself and talk to the people. But if you got a question or comment, by all means, jump right in. And Jeff is monitoring the chat, and will engage you here on the Barbecue Show Live, also known as the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show. Before we came on, we were talking about charcoal, Steve, and you're asking me what kind of charcoal we were going to be carrying at the Owl's Nest Barbecue store here in Ooltewah. And I told you we're going to be doing Blues Hog, all 3 types. He's got a lump, briquette, and he's got those logs. Now, have you ever cooked with those pre-made logs?
So I've never cooked with his hog logs, but I've cooked with the B&B char logs before. I like the idea behind them. Right?
Now, tell me, because I know nothing about these, but he had them, and I said, I need to get those. Tell me, what's the principle behind it? What's about it?
So the whole idea behind a log form or a longer briquette with a hole in the middle is basically you get there's several things that happen, but it boils down to you get more surface area that's exposed to more oxygen, so the fire burns a little bit cleaner, right? That's the whole point of that hole in the middle, is that now we can have a fire on the outside ring of that log as well as on the inside. And from tests I've seen, theoretically you get a hotter temperature, but more than that, because it's so efficient at burning, I can tell you from my personal experience with the char logs, you get just a crazy long burn time out of it. Basically, it's a when you see those kind of things, a lot of times they are a compacted and extruded briquette, so it's even compressed at a way higher psi. So you've technically got more material in there to burn as well.
Is it when you use it? What is the application?
I think you can use it for anything, but where it really shines is when you need a longer burn time. I'm pretty sure there's a guy, I can't remember if he was on YouTube or I saw it somewhere else, put him in a drum and ran that drum at 250 degrees for like almost 2 days. It was ridiculous.
Okay. So you couldn't use it in a gravity feed? Wouldn't make sense?
So you could, and I've actually, since I've got some gravity feeds coming, I thought about doing that. The thing that you can run into is sort of like it with pellet cookers. You know how you'll get what they call bridging, where the pellets all sort of do this number and get stuck and don't want to fall down? Well, you can kind of run into that in the same thing with these longer logs. So a briquette just falls down easier. It's sort of the same reason that you got to be careful with lump charcoal in a gravity, because if you get a weird piece in there, it can stick it. These logs
I've had that happen several times. Yeah.
Right. These logs could technically do the same thing, but I don't think you'd have any problem. You might want to be a little bit more careful putting them down the chute.
You know, I thought they might work is like on a PK grill, cooking offset on a PK, or not offset, but hot zone, cool zone.
Yeah, I think they'd be excellent for that application, because you've got such a small amount of area you need to burn in, right? You don't want to be in and out of there. You don't want to have a whole bunch of fuel. So with these, you could put less in and they burn for longer. So I think an offset in that PK would be fantastic. I know Mark Lambert, in his little red box smoker that doesn't have a whole lot of space, he runs those logs in there and has great luck with them. Okay.
Well, see, I can't wait to use this stuff. It's that's a whole new. The charcoal world is going to be a whole new world to me, because I've been a blue bag guy all my life, and I still will sell blue bags.
I wasn't shy about it last year. I ran a lot of blue bag because it was all I could find, and there's something nostalgic about the smell of blue bag lighting up. Like, it's kind of like, you're not supposed to like that smell, but you kind of like that smell. And once it burns off, you're good to go. It doesn't matter.
I think everybody likes that smell.
Oh yeah, it's nostalgia. But push to shove, last year, my preferred coal was B&B. Well, it's been hard to get it all pandemic, right? So finally, last Saturday, I got my hands on like 5 bags of those Blues Hog briquettes. And they say hickory wood on the bag, and I wasn't sure if it was a blend or if it really was. I can't tell you what the answer to that question is, but I can tell you they smell fantastic. The best way I can describe it is it sort of smells like blue bag if blue bag didn't have the little bit of bad stuff in it. It's got a very unique smell, and that's what we're going to be running at our first competition, not this Saturday, but next.
Oh, good. So you'll be able to. We can have you on again in 2 weeks.
I'd love to come on, Steve.
Ken Vanderwee just chimed in. He said, "Is this a rerun?" We just had Steve on a couple of weeks ago, but Steve Dotson and the Cookout Coach. He knows a lot, and and what I like about you, Steve, you know how to explain things, and where at least I can understand them. And as long as I can understand you, I don't care about everybody else. If I understand, I'm good with that, and I appreciate you. It's just like the charcoal talk right there. You know this stuff, because I just don't know charcoal. I just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way to figure it out is to dive into it and play with it, right? And that's kind of what the whole YouTube experience has been about for me. Is I try all the things that people, someone tells you, hey, soak your cooking wood. Well, I'm going to soak it and then cut it in half and see what it actually does, because I spent probably a year or so just, taking that common knowledge, and then I decided I wanted to find out for myself.
Well, I'm going to have Blues Hog charcoal. We're also ramping up the Blues Hog sauce line. We're going to be carrying a whole bunch more, and we carry it now, but we're really going to.
Decided I wanted to find out for myself.
Okay, you can turn that off, Jeff. Thank you. It's still on. It's. Talking about the sauces that that Blues Hog has, or we're gonna have. I've added Craig Sherry's line of stuff, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
All the pepper jelly company.
Yep.
Now, what kind of experience have you had with that?
So I've never ran Craig's rib glazes and stuff. I'm a Cosmo team, so I've always ran Cosmo's rib glazes.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, Craig has a more variety than Cosmo does. So, for instance, Craig will have his rib candy, but he also has his bird bath. And basically, from what I can tell, one of the differences is, like in a lot of rib glazes, you only get a spicy version. But in Craig's, I know you can get them where they're just sweet, right? So I think the bird baths aren't as spicy. Like, you don't have to get cherry apple habanero, right? You can just get a cherry apple glaze.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that a lot of people are really high on Craig's stuff, and I haven't tried it, but I've tried a sauce that people say is very similar, and it's one of my favorite sauces, is Craig's barbecue sauce. Now, it's from what I understand, it's the one that I use that people say is very similar to it is Head Country Apple Habanero.
That stuff is off the chain good.
And people say that Craig's barbecue sauce is a little bit better than that. So I would be very excited to try Craig's barbecue sauce. It's just, I think we've talked about this before. There is so much good in the land of barbecue products that it's hard to sort through it all.
That Head Country, it's I tried to get some for the store, and they're not the easiest people to buy from. They go through in our area of the country. They go through wholesalers, jobbers,
yeah.
I guess. And I have no idea who sells it. So I bet, Jimmy, you don't have a lot of time to research this stuff. When you're trying to put stuff in the store, you don't have an hour to try to chase down a contractor or something like that when you're trying to get product. They need to make it easy to get to.
Yeah.
Give me that information. I'll try to find it for you tomorrow.
Okay. Head Country Apple Habanero.
Yeah, that stuff is the real deal.
I need more people. I need more assistants. I like this. I need people.
Especially unpaid ones.
That's what they're the best guy.
But I tell you what, Steve, if you're carrying Craig's stuff, give that Craig's barbecue sauce a try. I hear from people that I consider barbecue sauce connoisseurs, it's a similar vein, but a little bit of a higher tier. I hear it's really great.
Well, we've got it, and we'll be cracking it open tomorrow, putting it out. We got it a couple days ago. It's been sitting on the to-do shelf with all the other stuff with the to-do shelf. But it's an exciting time of year, Steve, and I can't. We the barbecue community, barbecue guys like us, we always get excited this time of year, whether it's getting geared up for competitions or backyard stuff or even just family events. But I've never seen it like this. This has been like a pent up frustration that everybody's got, wanting to throw smoke in the air and get together.
We were at work. Goodness gracious, 4 or 5 Fridays ago. The first day up here where it was sunny and you could walk outside and it just felt warm. It was still a little crisp, and we were talking about where we were going to go for lunch. And I just looked at the guys and said, guys, I can bring a cooker in here as long as they don't care that we have it in the parking lot. Let's just go buy some steaks. And let's do that for lunch on Friday because, my God, it's time.
Well, you're right. It was time. And we're talking with Steve Dotson, America's Cookout Coach from West Virginia, talking a little bit of barbecue. Here with my buddy Jeff Maxwell. We'll be talking about Rodney Scott's World of Barbecue book here in just a few minutes. Have you do you follow Rodney at all, Steve?
What I can find of him, yeah, there was a documentary on him on YouTube. I don't know who it was that did it, but it was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
He seems like a really cool guy. Like, it doesn't seem like an over-the-top barbecue joint. It seems like a classic barbecue joint. He's out there cleaning up trees that fell to burn down to the hickory coals and use it for his stuff. It seems like a cool operation.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth a drive to Charleston to check it out. Now, obviously, it's not as far to Charleston for me as it is you, but Charleston's still a pretty good little lick away from Chattanooga.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're talking South Carolina, I mean, Myrtle Beach is pretty much an annex of West Virginia. So you just go. I mean, it's to that state's not a big deal, and if we just got to cruise a little bit more to get to Charleston, it's worth it.
I like that.
Honestly, all down the East Coast, there's a whole bunch of barbecue joints that I would need to stop and hit. It would be a worthwhile trip for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe I can call Robert Moss, our friend of the show, and get him to go to Rodney's with me. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about your the name of your barbecue team is
DQ'd Barbecue.
DQ'd Barbecue. Now, tell me about what are the products that DQ'd Barbecue uses, and who are you associated with?
Right. So I last year I was a Cosmos Q team, and I've been using Cosmos stuff pretty much ever since I got into barbecue seriously. You know, it was kind of like pick a product, right? Pick a brand. And Cosmo at the time had a really cool YouTube channel. He seemed like a fun guy. It had a fair amount of products. So I got him and tried him. So I've stuck with those for a long time. The thing that I've done is I've added in, because you just can't get away from it because they're putting out just amazing products, is Blues Hog. I mean, pretty much 99.9% of what I'm running these days is a combination of Cosmos seasoning and Blues Hog sauces, and then just mix the two together. Again, there's some other things in there like that Head Country Apple Habanero we talked about. But those are the two that I run a lot. I've ran other stuff. I've ran Heath stuff in competitions. I've played with some of Malcolm's seasonings before, but there's a lot of them that I haven't got to, not for any other reason than I kind of hit a stride where the things I had were working and just got a little bit afraid to stir the water too much.
You know, I get a lot of people call me and send emails wanting me to carry their rubs. There's so many people making rubs and sauces out there.
Yeah.
And there's no way to carry everyone's. But what I do try to do is go to their social media platforms and I look them up. And I'll tell you what, what sells sauces and rubs are people that like Malcolm, Heath, David Bosca, Matt Pittman, Matt Frampton, in his pizza thing, the people that get out there and, Jeff, put themselves out there on social media. They do the videos. They make themselves accessible. They come on to shows like this, and they're out there pitching their products in support of people like me.
Every single one of the people that you named, you can go right now on YouTube or on Facebook, and you can pull up some sort of video where they're, supporting the brand, getting their brand out there, and that's why they're successful. They chase that carrot,
and that in turn supports little stores like myself. And when somebody calls and you look and you think, well, it's because it's all good. I mean, everybody's stuff is good because basically it's all the same. There's little tweaks here and there, but it's there's only so many salts you can put in: salt, pepper, and garlic. Okay, so but the ones that are successful at it are the ones that tell you week after week with frequency, with a certain time that they come on, where you can count on them that these are my products. You can get these products at the Owl's Nest Barbecue Store in Ottawa or where have you, and they support the people that they're buying their products. And if you're not out there, it's tough to get somebody to spend, because my average, when I take on a new line, when I decide to say, all right, I'm going to take on this person's line of rubs and sauces and what have you, it's normally anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400 is what I'll spend, getting their different enough cases to do it. Now I know a lot of people say, oh, that's ridiculous, Steve. I spend $5,000, and they might. Your store is probably bigger than mine. But I mean, for me, that's a big investment in one person, and you multiply that times 9 or 10 teams out there, 9 or 10 people, then you can see what you've got a pretty good investment in inventory. So you gotta, if you're going to be out there pitching your products to people like me, and even and Steve, it goes down to the competition teams too.
Yep.
You gotta you've got to get your products in the hands of guys like Steve, the guys that win, to make it available.
So
Well,
if
and
you're gonna go and invest $1,000, $1,400 on a product, they should make that easy for you to get. It shouldn't be like pulling teeth for you to be able to get a hold of that. And that's the importance of it. The ease of your shop that you're selling it to.
Well, there's some companies out there that are so big though that they're not interested in. I mean, I'll just be honest with you, they're not interested in $1,400. They're just that's cute. That's a nice little store. You're cute. Go over to Walmart and get it.
yeah,
What were you gonna say, Steve?
You're dead on there. It's all about partnerships without trying to sound cheesy, right? You'll have these companies sponsor teams, so that's all great if you want to give some product to a team. But win or lose, it doesn't really matter. What you need them to do is to then show people how to use your product, and in that same vein, for them to help guys like you, that they either need to, through their teams, have plenty of media showing how to use their product, or use it themselves. And the thing that comes to mind right now is, you've always, for as long as I've known you, you've carried Dave Bosca's Butcher Barbecue line. You get a product like barbecue mud that you can do anything with it. And if you don't have something to spark the imagination of the folks that walk in your store to say, what am I going to do with this? You could just go, well, you do anything with it. Well, that's great. But if you've got some videos of David, or I know you were playing around with it on Facebook when you first got it, doing different things with it, then people look at that and go, oh, well, yeah, no, I can do that. Let's give that a shot and see how it turns out.
Now, you've got to put out a good product too. That's the most important thing. You can't blow your horn and have people buy it, then it tastes like crap. It does have to be a good quality product. And the way I got hooked up with David was, I went to him when I first started, and he was very enthusiastic about selling me stuff. And David supports the brand with his podcast, with his videos, and his brisket videos, trimming brisket videos are probably the most in-depth professional ones out there. They're not very long, and he was a trained butcher, so he knows what he's doing. So that's going right to the source. If you want to trim a brisket, watch a butcher trim a brisket, and that's how the brisket should be trimmed, in for backyard style, for competition style, or whatever. And what I do like about the industry, it's going away from competition more towards the backyard people. And I'm not talking backyard competition. I'm talking about the masses that are cooking. These guys, they realize that, they talk to each other, but only a smidgen of the population competes in barbecue, and only a smidgen even want to compete in barbecue. What most of them want to do is make good barbecue on the back deck, where it's easy and it tastes good. And that's what I like about when people are talking. When you watch a video series by a team, by a person, they will say, on your back deck, this is what you need to do. Then you're talking to my customers, and that's what I want them to do is talk to my people.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna tell you something. On Friday and Saturday, I'll have if when Malcolm releases a video on Thursday, Saturday people come in and go, I watched this guy on YouTube. Yeah, there it is, right there, that AP rub. Yeah, I need some of that, and they'll call it out by name.
Yep.
Because of the strength of his awareness to be out there, to do it on a certain regularity.
Yep.
And that's so important.
Yeah, it's really funny. Last year really highlighted it. The whole sponsorship, working with companies thing really shifted. I guess there was a time where you could make a little bit of money being a sponsored team in competition barbecue and whatnot. There was a time, right, the Pitmaster era, but it's shifted now to, like you said, more of those, whatever you want to call them, influencers, those personalities on social media, where you are just talking to somebody in the backyard who's trying to figure this out before they throw their cooker away. And last year, if you paid attention, you saw a lot of comp barbecue teams, big name comp barbecue teams, start trying to produce content. And some of them succeeded and did well. Some of them succeeded and did well, but I don't know if they didn't understand that it's a long grind or they just weren't in for it. But they backed out pretty quick. So it was an interesting thing for me to see as I try to step into their world of competition. 2020 was the year of them trying to step into my world of being on YouTube and creating content and that kind of thing, because people just started to understand this is where the audience is. There's so many more people who just want to cook a good rack of ribs and are tired of buying them and messing them up.
Right. Because, the thing that I'm sure you're seeing the National Barbecue League, what those guys have done, I think is fantastic. They've all come together. They've tried to make the competition world interesting, and that's tough to do in our sport because it is not a fan friendly. It's just not. It's not fan friendly because you can't see anything. And they've done things and pulled and done contests where they had to cook in front of people, and I think that's fantastic. That reminds me of the Jeff, of the small contest we do here in Ottawa when we cook in front of everybody, and they come by and they mingle, and people like that. People like watching what you do. You know?
I miss doing those. I mean, those are my favorite competitions more so than the big KCBS ones. That because it's all the local guys and you get the local people at the Cambridge Square. So those are a lot more fun than and there's a lot less pressure.
Yeah. And a lot less expense too.
Well, that's for sure because we're typically doing only 1 or 2 meats versus the 4.
So tell me, Steve, where's your competition team heading to? What's the schedule look like? How many have you done this year? How have you done, and where are you heading?
So I haven't done any, in Atlantic, so it's still been cold. But next weekend we're heading to Urbana, Virginia, which is a little bit below Richmond, out on the bay, for our first comp of the season, and it's actually a double. So we're just going to come out the gate hard. After that, we're heading to Marietta, Ohio, in the middle of April. Then the next week, I think we're going back up to Hagerstown, Maryland, Mannington, West Virginia, Roanoke, West Virginia. West Virginia has actually turned into a little bit of a hot spot for competitions, and a lot of them have to do with the backyard participation, right? It's kind of popped them up. We've got one in Welch, West Virginia, which is down right on the line with Virginia there. Honestly, I don't even know all of them off the top of my head. I counted them up the other day. I think it was about 14.
Wow.
Isn't what I'm playing on. That doesn't count if we draw the Jack Daniels. And technically, I guess we've probably already pre-qualified for the KCBS Invitational again, but they haven't sent any invites out, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's going to be a busy year.
Well, can you see yourself stepping up to the pro division, or are you happy doing the backyard?
Oh man, I tell you what. So the whole goal is to go pro, right? If back in 2018, if you would have told me I would still be doing backyard stuff in 2021, I would have thought you were crazy, because the whole point was to step into the ring and compete. Well, that was back before I realized just how much it cost, right? And I don't want to say I don't like to do anything sort of middle of the pack on purpose, but I wouldn't want to step up to pro to just step up to like 2 contests a year. So I'll definitely go pro eventually, but there's a few things that it depends on. One is if we get the Jack Draw this year, there's a good chance in 2022 we'll go pro. We'll definitely get there eventually, but I didn't want to rush it. It's kind of like one of those things. I've heard Paul Keltner from Rooters and Tutors talk about he had a bad habit of jumping hard into hobbies and then immediately don't like that and come back out of it. So I've sort of tried to temper my enthusiasm a little bit with this, but it's getting close to time. We had a good year last year. If we would have results similar to that at all this year, it's clearly time for us to move up.
Yeah. I think you're doing it right. Wait on it. It's not a it's not a foot race.
Yeah,
it's a barbecue race, and you can wait on it, take it slow.
That's the thing, is it's still just a hobby, right? And you're talking about hobby dollars, and there's only so many hobby dollars anybody has at any given time. You roll into these contests and you look at some of the rigs that the pros have, and I look at them and I don't go, man, that's awesome. I go, man, what do you do for real life? Because that's a $250,000 RV. So, not everybody's in the same spot. Right now, I'm in KCBS backyard budget. Maybe some point in time I'll move up to KCBS pro budget. But for now, what we've sort of done in our area is, first of all, we've started a little rivalry with the backyarders down in Alabama. So that's fun. But we've taken the level of our competition up to that next tier where we score similar to pro scores in our divisions. The difference is We pay less money to get there, and we only cook 2 meats, so we save money there.
Yeah.
And as long as I've got a high level of competition, I'm pretty happy to do whatever. Like, if you want to flip quarters and compete like that, I'll compete with you. But it's got to be competitive.
Well, you do a good job, and you take it seriously at the level you're at. And I think that the KCBS has done a good thing of putting an importance on the backyard competitor, because I really think, Steve and Jeff, I think that's where their growth is, is in the backyard realm, not in the professional realm.
I was looking back at the Sip and Swine.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 32 backyard teams.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a huge contest.
I think there was 49 pro teams, but I've been noticing, looking at the results, that it seems like there's a lot more backyard teams now.
Yep.
Competing.
32 backyard teams. There was a 3-meet contest, and there were 2 180s in the backyard.
Yeah. But that's a huge contest anyway. That draws a lot of people that probably only cook once a year.
Yeah.
But
I think that was actually sponsored by one of the big race teams. I'm going to lose it there, but yeah, it's got a big title sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
Hendrix. Yeah, Hendrix sponsors it.
I didn't know that.
Yep, they were the title sponsor this year.
It's a good contest. I did it 3 years ago. It's a good contest. It's a lot of fun. They take care of you.
So you mentioned the Barbecue League. Did you watch any of the stuff where they've been going live at contests? And they went live at Sip and Swine with a bunch of the different competitors.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so if you're a member of the Barbecue League, there's a private Facebook group for the members. And they did it at Humble, Texas. They did it at Sip and Swine, and they're doing it this weekend at the Double in Shawnee, where they'll go live. They were live. I was watching it before I came on the show with you here. They'll go live in different folks' trailers, and during prep, during wrap, during finishing, and so it's not in person people yet, but like it reminds me of like late '90s, early 2000s Bassmasters. If you ever watched that on TV, where you can't be out there in a boat with fishermen, but they got camera crews out there watching these guys, and that's what's happening with these barbecue folks. And you're seeing like live wrapping, live seasoning, live finishing. It's really cool.
I love that idea. But
they're elevating.
It gets the fan into the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're taking it to the next level with it for sure.
And you just got to join the National Barbecue League to get that page.
Yeah. So if you're a member, go on Facebook and look for the Barbecue League members only, and they'll ask you for I think they ask you for your email that you're currently a member of. They'll verify it and you're in, and it's all there. Now, if you're a member of the league and you don't catch it live, they've been going back and like putting all the clips together because they're like 20-minute sections a piece and putting them on the Barbecue League page. So I know the ones up there from Humboldt, Texas. I don't know if the one's up from Sip and Swine yet, but yeah, they're live on Facebook. They were live 4 or 5 times from the time I got home from work till the time we came on the show.
We'll have to get Tim Shearer on, the guy that owns Blues Hog. And
tell you what,
and
I saw
talk to him about that.
I saw that guy last year at KCBS, and I looked at that man, and I said, that's a guy whose wife dressed him, because he's dressed up pretty dapper and a group full of barbecue guys. He didn't do that himself.
He's a big old tall kid, too.
He about hit his head on the canopy going up for awards.
Yeah, he's a big old tall one. Hey, let's talk about Rodney Scott's book.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something. I'll tell you something right here. You stay right there, Aaron. Rodney Scott's World of Barbecue. This, you would think that it would be a book about just barbecue. I'm Rodney Scott. This is how I do it. This is how I started. Blah blah blah. But I'm going to tell you something, fellas. This book is a coming of age story. This book. I'm not saying this story that he tells in this book it has nothing to do with barbecue. It has everything. It has everything to do with barbecue, but nothing to do with barbecue. And if that sounds strange, what it is, barbecue becomes a background in his life that where he is has issues with his parents, especially his father, and he goes into great detail about that. He gets really, really personal about the relationship with his dad and how it went south and how it is south to this day where they don't speak. And it's nothing that he's proud of, but he's come to terms with it. And as he's telling you about this, he's intertwining the way the restaurant was intertwining his life as he tells you this story about the relationship with he and his parents and living in Hemingway, South Carolina, which I've never been to, but apparently is just a basically a wide spot in a road. And what is so, I'll just read you. It says right here. This is page 1 of the book. This is after the prelude and the author's notes and stuff. He starts out the book like this. He says, "I don't know if my mother said that." Well, first he says, "You have to work for what you get." And he says, "I don't know if my mother said that to me in the delivery room, but every day of my life after that, if she wasn't saying it, my father was. That was the family philosophy in one word, work." And when he's telling the story of his childhood, there's no mention of him being on a ball team. No mention of his mother taking him to baseball practice, to hedge trimmer football practice. There's no mention of any sports in his life. The only mention of him is working all of the time since he was literally 11 when he did his first hog. He cooks his first cold hog at 11 years old. His dad left him in the pits and said, "Cook this hog," when he was 11 years old. Now, at 11 years old, could you have done a hog at 11?
Couldn't do a grilled cheese.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what this guy, all his life has been working in barbecue. And he said he said the reason he got into barbecue was because he hated farming so bad. Apparently they were farmers too. And he said that was the worst. He said, the barbecue beats the farming hands down. He says, he just flat says, "I hate farming." He says, he was just so upfront about it. But throughout the book, it's, when you're reading it, I swear you would think that you were sitting at a table, Jeff, and I'd be talking to Rodney Scott, that you would be Rodney Scott, or he'd be just like that picture is behind us. He would be that close to you, telling you this story. His style of storytelling and writing was so refreshing. It was so down to earth, and it was so, folks, I'm going to tell you, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. When he did his first interview with the fellow from the New York Times, and people start calling, you can almost close your eyes and imagine in this little wide spot in the road town, Hemingway, South Carolina, where they're running a they didn't cook barbecue every day. They started out doing it one day, then they started out doing it 2 days, and doing it 3 days, and they started cooking one hog on Thursdays to sell. I mean, that's how they started, and to see where he is now, moving to Charleston, and the eventual splitting of the family from leaving his when he left his mom and dad, and I mean literally left home, and he was an only child, so he's got his mom and his dad. And when he leaves home to go to Charleston to open this restaurant, it is the story that he tells, and I won't give it away here, but it's worth every penny of this book to read that story, because Rodney goes into detail about what was happening with his father's finances, what his own family was doing behind his back, the jealousy that there was in his family and friends when he became semi-famous in the barbecue world, when he was being invited to New York, down to Charleston, to Texas, to Los Angeles, to Australia is when it hit the fan. When he was in Australia, there was literally a family coup for the business, and he was the odd man out. They literally took the business from him. And Rodney goes into great detail about that. And that's when he decided that, I've got to leave this place. And I've got to find some sort of inner peace within me. And that's where he gets the slogan, every day is a good day. And that, that's what he always says, how you doing? Every day is a good day. And in the book you can see where he's come to peace with the relationship that he has with his dad. And he says it's just tough. He says it makes it tough on his mother. It makes it tough on him. But through all this stuff he learned that he wanted when he embraced the work of a restaurant, and he happened to be cooking barbecue, and he met some influential people along the way that he was very fortunate to meet, people that knew the fellow Nick that was in that video. That's the Nick of Jim and Nick's restaurant, if you're wondering. And he kind of took, apparently, and I'm not speaking on authority, I'm just from reading the book. Apparently he took Rodney under his wing, so to speak, and encouraged him. It says he said, what you're doing is off the chain. What you're doing is something that people out there are craving, that we can make this work. And it was a very powerful influence on him. But that had its downside, about his having to leave his family and to make a choice whether he was going to stay in Hemingway. And Rodney, you got to remember, right now he's 50 years old. So we're talking, he was making these decisions in his late 30s and early 40s. I mean, that's how long he worked in the family business. And working in a family business, when you're working for your dad and mom, it's tough, man. I mean, it's tough because you don't leave it. When you have a fight at home, you take it to work. And when you have a fight at work, you take it home. And so it's just a tough dynamic on everybody, and it's not for everybody. So the book it's better than good. It's not a question of is it a good read? Yeah. Are the recipes great? Yeah, of course they are. They're Rodney Scott, for God's sake. He shows you how to build a cinder block pit. That's in every book. Steve and Jeff. That's in Myron's book. That's in Tuffy's book. Mm-hmm. That's in all their books. How to build a cinder block pit. We get it. The recipe, fried chicken recipes in there. The sauce recipe we talked about first of the show. It's in there too. If you're wondering what his secret sauce is, it's vinegar and pepper and I think lemons. So I mean, there you go, vinegar, pepper, and lemons. Boy, I couldn't figure that out. So but it's a good sauce, and I'm not throwing down on his sauce by any stretch of imagination, but it's a book that should be read by people that are interested in barbecue like us, or people that are just interested in the dynamic of a family business, things that can go right and things that can go wrong in a family business when somebody is unwilling to bend or understand or doing the wrong things behind your back. A family member, because that's got to, if an employee does something, wrong. After I've been in business 38 years, if an employee does something wrong, I don't like it, but I don't, you deal with the problem. You either get rid of that person or you counsel that person, and you bring them up to speed, and you try to save a relationship. And if you can save that person in your business, it's great. If it doesn't work out, then you don't want him in your business anyway. But this is more than that. This is, you can't fire your dad. You can't fire your son. You can't fire your dad from being your dad. He's going to be your dad all the time. And you may not like him, but you're going to have to come to terms with that, And now, in all fairness to Rodney's dad, he didn't interview his dad, or nobody interviewed Rosie. His dad's name's Rosie. Nobody interviewed Rosie and said, well, tell us about this, Rosie. He may have a whole different take on it. He may say, what that guy was doing, so, we don't know that part. And because there's always two sides to every story.
And the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. And right. And you don't go to court because everybody's lying in court. That's the last place you find the truth is in the courtroom. So everybody's lying in there. But this book, it's an important book in barbecue, simply because barbecue is the setting, and it is the thing that connects all of us together. Even, even if we meet Rodney Scott at a party, we can talk to him for hours. Because we talk the language. If I meet an airplane pilot at a party, how you doing? Boy, it's really cool what you do. They ought to pay you guys more. Great. Thanks. Nice meeting you. You got nothing to talk about. You know what I'm saying? You just got nothing to talk about. So, is it a recommendation? Sure, it's a recommendation. But it's more. I want to say it's more than a recommendation. It's a must read. It really is. It's if you're a fan of barbecue, and I hate to use barbecue celebrities because I don't want. There's some people you don't. I mean, he's a celebrity, I know, but you want to. I'd like to go to the restaurant someday and see him back there working. You know what I'm saying? And just poke your head in and go, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I read your book. Greg, would you sign this real quick? In between cutting that hog up.
Ulterior motive.
Yeah. So it's just the book that he has written, Rodney Scott's World of Barbecue. He should change the name to Rodney Scott, How I Found My Way to Make Every Day a Good Day. That's what the book should be entitled, because it's like I said, it has everything to do with barbecue and it has nothing to do with barbecue. It has everything to do with the human, the inner human sufferings of people, how people get their feelings hurt to a point where they quit talking to each other, and how forgiveness is sometimes not available. They say a heart stained with anger grows weak, it grows bitter. You'll become your own prisoner. So, but some people that's okay, and apparently he's made peace with that, and apparently his father has too, because they've not reached out to each other. But that's the downside. The good side, there's more upside to this book. The positive things that Rodney did when they had a fire, and they had to go out and raise money to rebuild the restaurant. They went out on the road, and they cooked all of these celebrity events, and raised $80,000. And the people that he has met along the way, he talks about in great detail. The people that have helped him. The Nick, I think it's I'm hesitant to pronounce his last name. I think it's Palakis, but I'm not sure the pronunciation. And I hate to mispronounce names because names are very important. But we'll just call him Nick. How important he was. How Nick's family. How Nick's son was important to Rodney. How even Nick's father, who passed away in 2000, listening to Nick talk about his father, Jim and Nick's, how important he was to Nick, and how he passed that down to Rodney. And that's important to him. And he does a great job of. He tells stories about going to bars, after work. Everything Rodney did was I had to leave work and go quick, and I couldn't stay long because I had to be back to go back to work. Everything he did, and every story, it was never, I didn't have anything to do, so I rode over to Myrtle Beach. What he was talking about was, I drove 2 hours to this bar, and he had a plan. When he went to a bar, he got a drink the first time, and then he drank that drink, and then he'd have another drink, and then he quit, and he'd drink water the rest of the night, and so he could make sure he could drive home. He had a plan. And that's how this guy was. He planned his activities so he could get back home, because he had to be at work at 5 o'clock the next morning. So everything he did was surrounded by work. And if you're lucky enough to have seen his documentary on Netflix, if you liked that, if you thought this guy's a unique fella, by all means, pick up this book and order it or wherever you buy your books at. Buy this book and read it. The recipes are there; they're great. But you can get folks. You can get recipes anywhere. And I'm not saying Rodney's aren't good recipes. Of course they are. But I think that he should be very proud of this book, because he left it. If he was a football player, he left it all on the field. I'll just tell you right now, he left nothing. There was nothing unturned. I mean, the things that his family said about him, the things that the financial difficulties they had, struggling to just survive. I mean, after years in business. I mean, when you would think a business would be on cruise control, they're struggling to pay taxes and things of that sort. All right, here we go. I'm going to read to you. I'm going to give up something. All right, let's see. Barbecue sauces. Hang on real quick. I should have marked this somehow. I had a long day at work today. I had to come home and take a nap. Let's see. You ever take a nap when you get home, Steve?
Only when my wife lets me.
Rodney sauce 211. Only when your wife lets you.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you I run my house, Steve, because that's a lie, and I try not to do that. It's funny listening to you describe this book, though, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I've got, Myron's latest book and Tuffy's book, and I flip through those occasionally when I need a specific recipe. But the book that I've read cover to cover is Aaron Franklin's Barbecue Manifesto, and I really like Texas barbecue is cool and all, but it's not my thing. But it's a similar idea, right? It's Aaron's story to the restaurants and how he survived.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that someone who's not into barbecue could read, much like it sounds like Rodney's book, and have an appreciation for the American spirit, like you said, but sort of see how barbecue pulls a person together.
Right. And Tuffy, if you've ever heard an interview with Tuffy in depth, he does a better job telling Myron's story than Myron does, because he tells it from a third person view that when everybody was out there cooking contests for fun, Myron was cooking them for the mortgage, and if you wondered why he was so intense, Tuffy explains that fairly well, why Myron was so intense and was still intense. That after his dad passed away, it was he had to that's how they made a living, and it was up to him. So then that's another good story too. All right, Rodney's. This is it. This is the secret from the book I'm going to give up to you people. So if everybody that's hung with us, Alvin, let's see who's with us there. Alvin, Tom Ehad rather, Steve Losey, all you guys. Here you go. Get your pencils ready. Everybody run, get a pencil and a piece of paper. Okay. This is Rodney's whole hog sauce, and this makes 1 gallon. Okay. Now, I'm going to read you this real quick because this is interesting. Back in Hemingway, we used to make barbecue sauce right next to the pit. The pots we used were too big to really fit on a kitchen stove, plus it was more efficient to use hot coals from the pit as our heat source. We'd put a piece of roofing tin down on the floor and then set some hot coals on top of that. And then we would put the pot right on top of the hot coals. When I was a kid, it was mostly men making the sauce, but I was always the designated stirrer. He says, you can still do it that way if you want to, all the cooking outside, but these days at the restaurant we make sauce on the stove. That's how this whole book goes. It's very, very conversational, and this is how we used to do it. And you could just see a bunch of guys standing around a trash can lid with coals, stirring, looking in a pot, stirring it. It's here's the recipe: 1 gallon of distilled white vinegar, 1 lemon thinly sliced, a half a cup of ground black pepper, 1/3 cup of cayenne pepper, 1 1/4 tablespoons of red pepper flakes, and 2 cups of sugar. So you can see it's pretty pepper strong. Would you agree? That's a lot of pepper.
Yep.
Shake your head up and down.
You just got to have that sugar in there to balance it out.
That's right. He says the 2 main ingredients are vinegar and pepper, so you have to balance them right. You don't want the vinegar to be overwhelming. Distilled white vinegar has less acid than other white vinegar, so it helps keep the bite in balance. Also, heating the vinegar takes away some of its sharpness. When it comes to the pepper, you want a little spice, but you don't want it so overwhelming you can't take it. The goal is to get an immediate heat that goes away just as fast as it started. If it lingers too long, you added too much pepper. You know you have it right when you taste a few drops of the finished sauce, and after you taste it, your mouth forms a kiss. That's getting down to it. So if you are cooking a whole hog, you'll need 1 gallon of sauce. But if you're using it for any other recipes, you can make only 1/2 gallon. And he says, in a small pot, warm the vinegar over medium-high heat. After 5 minutes, when the vinegar reaches 150 degrees, just before it starts to simmer, add the lemon slices and continue to cook the lemon peels and continue to cook until the lemon peels begin to soften and wilt, about 10 minutes. Whisk in the black pepper, cayenne pepper, pepper flakes, and the sugar. Continue to cook over medium-high heat until the sugar is completely dissolved and the sauce reaches 190 degrees. It takes about 10 minutes. Remove from the heat and allow it to completely cool before using. Once the lemon is removed, the sauce can be refrigerated in an airtight container for up to 8 weeks. So there it is. That's one of the big secrets in Rodney's book right there, his famous sauce. And if you've seen the videos and the YouTube videos and the Netflix video, you see he gets that big, he uses a mop. He dips the mop in it and he splashes it on the pig, and it's real cool looking.
Biggest mop I've ever seen.
And it's pretty cool stuff. So
Yep.
there you
Gets
go.
that spoon down in there, starts turning it over, get it in there more.
Yeah, he gets it in there and turns that meat, and it's a fascinating read, and I highly recommend it. Even if you're not in barbecue, if you're not interested in any barbecue, it's a really, really good read. There's a picture of the mop right there. So Rodney Scott, thank you very much for writing this book. I know it took a long time. I've never written a book, but I've written essays, and they suck. They're hard to write. I can't imagine writing a book. So, kudos to you, and I hope you find great success. And I can see, I can tell you right now, who can play Rodney Scott. There's only one person that can play Rodney Scott. Anybody got a guess? And don't say Tom
Denzel.
Selleck.
Denzel.
That's it. Denzel Washington can be the next Rodney Scott. I can see it right now. Because Denzel can play young, too. Even though he's old now. He's about 66. He can still go down young. And then he could age throughout the movie.
Grecian formula. Will do it.
Yeah. So that would be a good movie. I'm not kidding. It'd be a good coming of age movie. Especially if him and his dad work things out and they hook back up and they can work things out. That'd be a great movie. All right, guys, that's it. Steve, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, bud.
Next Friday night, we'll be back on the radio, and we've got the barbecue and baseball guys on, Lynn and Jeff, and we're going to talk to them about their. I don't know if you've listened to that, Steve. Their podcast, Barbecue and
I
Baseball.
actually haven't listened to that one, but I know of a bunch of people who've been on it that I do listen to. So,
Jeff, have you listened to theirs yet? No. Barbecue and Baseball?
No, I have not.
It is the goofiest podcast you've ever heard, but it's so interesting. They had a girl on the other day that let me see if I get this right. Maybe it was a great uncle, and she was old, and she had a great uncle or a great grandfather. Somebody invented the rules of baseball.
wow.
And she has apparently the original copy of the rules of baseball. And this guy's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, figure that out.
I don't see how that
she
could be a
was
thing.
very, very entertaining. And if you're a baseball fan like I am, it's great. I know you are, Jeff. It's a great podcast. If you combine the two things we really love, baseball and barbecue, it's really good. So they'll be on next Friday night. We'll be back on the radio. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Rodney Scott, for writing this book. It was very enjoyable, and I appreciate your time and I appreciate your effort to entertain people like me. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate it very much. And we'll see you next Friday night right back here on the BBQ Show Live.